Hi, this is Sean Murphy of SK Murphy. I'll be the MC for today's briefing on CES 2024 by Shawn Flynn. Shawn Flynn is a principal for Global Capital Markets, an M&A advisory firm for mid-market companies. He is the host of the Silicon Valley podcast and a board member of the Silicon Valley Association for Corporate Growth. He graduated from UC San Diego with a BS in mechanical engineering. Shawn.
Sean, thank you for having me on this interview, this week's episode, or this group. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm always excited to meet another Sean.
So in the port that's been cut out, you kind of gave an overview of CES, and you said it was mainly a glimpse from the future. You want to tell us kind of your impressions of CES, or what were the most surprising things, or
So this is the third time I've been to CES. The first time was 2019 before the pandemic, and then last year and this year. It it's an amazing event. I highly recommend everyone go into it. But the energy this year still was not there, at least I felt, of prior pre-pandemic. Same with the audience numbers itself. I don't know the exact numbers of the attendees off the top of my head, but just from the capacity and how congested it was now versus last year versus years back, it's still not there to the pre-pandemic days. Now, that being said, it's still a fantastic event, which I highly recommend everyone going to. Even even if you don't have a ticket, just there's so many events going on outside of the venue itself. Like for example, there was a company that I'd caught up with the CEO. It's a smart wearable watch for children. I met the CEO years back. This was a great opportunity for us to meet in person and catch up. He didn't have a ticket to CES. He wasn't going there, but he had set up a bunch of meetings outside of CES because he knew how many people were flying in and traveling there just for this event. So for everyone that hasn't attended and is thinking I need a ticket, and some of those tickets could be pricey, some of them are you can more or less find someone with the booth in many situations that has an extra one. It's an event worth going to. Now the event itself, and let me know if you want my answers to be a little bit shorter or
no, no, it's
longer
fine.
or
This
how.
is fine. This is very good. It's very informational.
The event itself was in three locations. You had the Aria, you had the Venetian, you had the Las Vegas Convention Center. And I mean, the Venetian and the Las Vegas Convention Center was where pretty much 99% of everything happening was. And it's a half-hour walk or bus ride between the two. So it's difficult going hopping back and forth. So you'd mostly just stay in one for maybe the morning and then the other in the evening or afternoon or vice versa. And they had a different focus where the Venetian downstairs was Eureka Park, where it had all the startups. Uh, Top floor was more mid-market size companies, and then the Las Vegas Convention Center, yeah, they had areas where there were country specific or technology specific rooms that were more early stage, but that's where you get the huge Fortune 500 companies or even more Fortune, I'd probably say 100 companies there with these just massive booths. I mean, John Deere had a booth and it had full size tractor in there. There's Caterpillar with a full size real electric or not electric bulldozer, and I mean some of these booths absolutely spectacular. I don't even know the price that some of these groups pay, but I remember I was at the Arpel booth, which extremely massive, and they had maybe 20 or so companies there. And I was looking at it going, thinking per square foot that they probably paid, if they made that investment in these companies, they would own 100% of the equity in each of these startups. So that's how I was kind of looking at it because I mean, just the amount of money that these groups had spent, I can't even fathom. But when you're getting eyeballs from around the world, and when I mean around the world, I mean around the world in one location, the marketing opportunities. I got to, my buddy had a media pass, and I got to go in the media section, and there's this television station with a reporter, this newspaper, this blog, this all around just writing stuff, taking notes, uploading these pictures and that. So the exposure that these companies were getting through this event, absolutely phenomenal. Now, back to the event itself and some of the technology I was seeing. One thing that really interested me in comparison to prior years was in Eureka Park, the startup area. I spent a good amount of time there as an investment banker. Uh, we focus mergers, acquisition, growth capital. I can't really help those companies in the Las Vegas Convention Center, these Fortune 500 companies. They're going to be working with Jefferies, JP Morgan, these huge that say if it's under $1 billion, I'm not even waking up in the morning for. But where most of us play, it's perfect, the companies at Eureka Park. So that's where I spent a lot of my time getting to know these founders that were either some were pre-seed, some were A round, some were B round, but that kind of range where a lot of growth, a lot of momentum, a lot of new ideas. In Eureka Park, it was broken up into a lot of country specific zones. So Korea had a section, Germany had a section, Singapore had a section, Italy had a section, Israel had a section. Well, a section that surprised me this year that maybe it was there in the past, but I don't recall. The US government had a pretty large section. Their Homeland Security, their Department of Justice, they had people around this very large area talking about SBIR grants, all these options for startups to get connected with resources at the US government, which I don't recall them having in the past. Maybe they did, and I wasn't as aware of it, but definitely at this event, it was smack in the center, taking up a good chunk of real estate. So that was really surprising. And I could talk about later. I actually had lunch with a couple of people from that group and we can discuss what we talked about. But that was interesting. Korea was really interested in it as well as they had Cultra, KISS, they had all these different government organizations, and they weren't all in one section. They were this group over here, this group down there, this group upstairs. So I'm not sure how much the government was planning and working together, or if each government body was, we're 100% siloed and we're not talking to anyone else, which is more that feel I got from that group. France had a huge uh, exposure, bigger than I thought. France took up many rows, many aisles. They had a lot of good startups there. Italy had a bigger presence than I remember in the past. The two countries that actually had a lot less than I recall, Singapore and Taiwan. They both had them, but I didn't see as many as at least last year. Singapore, I didn't have a chance to talk too much. What I remember last year though about Singapore was the companies that they brought were all very mature companies. Whereas a lot of the other countries, their booths would have that early stage and pre-seed to A. I remember Singapore in my conversations last year, all of them having 10 million in revenue or more with whatever company they had. Japan, I now that I think about it, I don't remember Japan. What also was interested is in Eureka Park, there really wasn't any Chinese presence. And that was surprising. Now, in Las Vegas Convention Center, there was. I saw a lot of OEMs that had booths. I in the second floor, kind of more the main floor, I did see a lot of manufacturers. I did see a couple of Chinese companies that were in the fitness space, which was surprising. In the fitness space, their products, I'd seen other competitors similar. I'm not sure if you guys know of Vitruvium or Arena, these sports devices with the cables that you pull and there's resistance as you're moving them. I saw I don't want to say knockoffs. I don't want to use any of those terminologies, but if you were to put all of them in a room next to each other and strip off logos, you'd probably go, "Huh, I wonder which one's what." That's there's some similarities. So I saw some of those. I didn't see too many other because I thought there would be more fitness devices from the last few years of how everyone was shut in for so long, and it seemed like so much money had been pushed in that direction. I didn't see that many companies there in the fitness. I saw a lot of last mile transportation companies, a lot of electric scooters, Some other devices, but a lot good number of last mile transportation. I did see some beauty tech as well. I mean, the list goes on and on of what I saw there, and we can dive deeper in any of those. But going back to the different countries themselves, the Ukraine had a small presence. I was surprised by that. Israel had a presence as well. Um, the of Europe, France definitely had the biggest that I recall. Germany had some. I didn't see any in Italy. I didn't see any from Spain, Portugal. I didn't see anything. Scandinavian companies did have a little presence. Uh, London or UK itself, I don't recall having a booth area. I could be wrong with that, but it doesn't stand out in my mind. And the atmosphere itself amongst these startups, conversations, last year, excitement this year, I didn't sense the same amount of energy. I could be wrong, but at least I didn't feel the same amount of energy. Um, and yeah, but
So
there's
were
some
there
a lot of
any
cool stuff.
what were the most surprising kind of new products you saw in Eureka Park? Were there categories of new products or new kinds of products that you, in other words, we're kind of in the post-COVID era,
Yeah.
hopefully.
There was some products which surprised me because in one sense I was thinking, and I talked to the founder, why go in this direction? So for example, there was a sleep monitor and ring. I saw a couple of companies that had some type of ring device,
Hmm.
sensor monitoring this or that, and this was a fingertip one because this he explained to me the skin is the thinnest there and they get the best results. But I kept thinking like I got my watch, like how big of a difference between the results could there be? So there's a lot of health monitoring that I saw. That more than I expected in areas that it didn't seem like it was brand new, but just they were kind of perfecting that technology. Uh, AR VR, I saw some cool stuff there where I got to, test out X Real. X Real had a massive booth there, not in Eureka Park, but on the main floor.
Hmm.
And there's other companies around it that had more AR VR goggles, and there are a lot of use case for surgeries and that. Actually, with the Homeland Security, as I mentioned, I grabbed lunch with them. They were really interested in talking to companies AR VR for first responders. So, for example, maybe a building's on fire, you want those AR glasses, so even though they can't see, you could tell them which way to go with arrows or directions and things of that nature. Also, there's one company I met there that was with the science and technology of Homeland Security that was doing disconnected, no Wi-Fi or internet translations for first responders for Coast Guard, but their focus was, you know, a lot. Well, some of it also was languages that aren't as common as people would guess, not just the Spanish English, but I mean they were talking about these languages. I was like, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. I'm gonna nod my head and pretend I have this well cultured knowledge of the world, but I don't. So yes, Spanish, good. But
Let me come back to one thing because a question occurs to me. So you're suggesting that you're seeing an increased use or at least an increased focus on first responders and AR. Um, do you think that the supporting organizations, whether it's the hospitals or emergency med or the fire stations, are going to need to set up more of a mission control model? How do so
Mm.
so what's on the other side of the handshake with the AR helmet or whatever? It would seem like you'd need to invest on both sides, right?
You're right. I mean, I would expect that. I mean, the first responders, I mean, 911, all these groups, they're pretty siloed from my
Mm-hmm.
understanding. I've talked to companies in the past that have tried to sell solutions to, cities 911 operations, and they find out that they're not all connected, that each city county is unique in their own, and they've discovered it's a very, very difficult, troubling sales cycle. So I didn't see any companies there that I had conversations with that were further enough along that they could say, "Yeah, we have all the solutions for the infrastructure." The companies I was talking to were just, "This is our product. Here you go. You know, this is our glasses. This is our software. This is our." They didn't have the end-to-end solution. I can't tell you for sure, but the conversation, for example, with that one, disconnected translator, it was we need to get these things approved by this organization. Then, because of that, we're 50% of the way approved for this organization. And then, if we get that, now we're in these three organizations and we're de-risked for these reasons. And it's kind of a piecemeal, step by step by step to get there. But it's still so early for all these companies.
So what's interesting to me, and I'll just dig in and then we move on for a minute. But so if you go back and read, for example, McChrystal's Team of Teams and the Special
Mhm.
Forces guys, which are not exactly AR, but they certainly have radio and camera, things like that. They invest in a back end to support those guys, right? And
Yeah.
they organize around the idea of an away team and an in-house team. So I'm wondering if they're gonna, I mean, I wonder if there's a way that some of that may get
Mm.
transferred to fire command or police command or fighting hazardous chemical fires, things like that, right?
Possibly. I mean, it sounds like a company. Sean, you want to open one? You want to start one?
Oh,
We might have
interesting.
we might have found our unicorn.
Well, I
So I know someone that's actually working with augmented reality that's GIS tagged, and so it's one of the use cases is military,
Mm.
and he's got some pending deals with SOCOM, and so think of GIS tagged AR.
Mm. What other area that, not to get too off topic, but I was just thinking right now of some of the companies that I saw there that had a lot of the CS awards, and that there's a lot of ideas around ESG, environmental, sustainable governments, but just the clean energy part, or just the renewable energy. And then, I mean, some companies, there's one company that I thought was pretty cool. They had an inflatable greenhouse, like literally just inflatable greenhouse. So think of almost like a pool toy with pockets in there, instead of those little bubbles, but plants going in each of those, but the plants being without soil, but with the water and the mist and everything from underneath from the inflatable. This is probably the worst thing unless you're actually see a visual of it. But okay, for example, stuff like that, or using solar power to filter and clean gray water, and a lot of these off-grid solutions for homes, or solutions for smart homes, or solutions for helping the homeless with modular. I saw a lot there around sustainability in one way or the other, um, which I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, some of those gray water solutions, some of those getting moisture from the air for drinking water, some of those, um, the smart technology and just the data. That's the one great part about CES. It's not just a product; it's them saying, "And this is the data we're collecting on it." Like, and then you realize that you have no privacy at all.
yeah, that may not be as good a thing. So we had a question on any space stuff. Did you see any space applications or any is that kind of
Hmm.
come and gone or
Uh, I'm trying to think. I don't recall seeing any booths focused on any space tech. I'm I'm trying to. I mean, because that's an area. I mean, I'm not sure if people here are familiar with the newsletter Payload. I just subscribed to that months ago, and I've been keeping up. And I know how much in that sector, how much excitement there is, and opportunities in the future. And gosh, that is one sector that. Oh, payload newsletter. All right, they put it in the chat. Thank you, Sean. There's the next 5-10 years. I think there's a ton of opportunity. There was actually had a little debate with someone there about space tech, with them saying, well, this whole argument over things being able built in zero gravity, the ROI is just not there and it's not going to be there. I'm like, how do you know it's not going to be there? In the future, someone's heart that they build up there could easily be worth the entire cost to send the shuttle there to build it to come back. And we just argued ROI for 5 minutes, and then both of us agreed that I'm obviously right and that he was wrong. At least since he's not on this talk right now, that's how we're gonna say it ended.
But it seems like the SpaceX guys are having a pretty dramatic impact on the cost of getting a pound of stuff into orbit, right? So maybe it's not as cheap. I mean, it seems like the trend is towards, it's a little bit like betting on, will computers get faster in the future? I mean, yeah, probably, right? I mean, will payload costs come down? Um, so question on sensors. Do you see any interesting sensor or sensor fusion applications?
Saw a lot of sensors, a lot of IoT devices, a lot of um I didn't see like last year I saw a couple booths that were very interested in claiming they had the next new thing beyond Bluetooth. I didn't see those companies there this year, so I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if they've just raised a ton of money or what or who knows. I did see a lot of IoT devices. I saw a lot of just this is going to be a sensor for health monitor. This is a sensor for monitoring food. This is a sensor for monitoring temperature. This is a lot. Actually, that was one thing that I was kind of surprised because I thought by now, I didn't think I would see as many. This is the new wave of monitoring the environment sensors. This is new water flow, leakage detection sensors. This is new. I did see now that that's been brought up. I saw, yeah, more than I thought of some type of sensor monitoring second, third generation, or at least that's how they were marketing it. Companies out there around environmental monitoring, around efficiency with water, and there was not as much. Actually, that is one thing. I didn't see much real estate tech, which kind of surprised me. I would have thought there would have been more around, HVAC monitoring or, um, you know, preemptive solutions, um, for monitor, especially right now with the commercial real estate market and how people are struggling so much. My commercial real estate friends, maybe I'm wrong, maybe things have changed, but whenever you talk to them in person, things are the greatest things ever. But then when no one's around, it's, oh God, every building's empty. Oh no, like we need to cut. So I would have thought there would have been a lot more of just, hey, here's some solutions to help out your current situation, bring down costs, make things last better. I didn't see that, which I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I think when I was there from Monday to Thursday. So I did cover a lot of ground in that time. I wasn't just sitting on the sideline. I was nonstop having meetings, having conversations, walking around. So I would say I saw 90% of everything there. So maybe I missed a section, but I think
Did you notice? Did you notice anything? So you said France had a very large presence. Did you see any trends in terms of what those guys are working on? Was there a focus or a differentiation, or was it just kind of more of the same but just bigger?
so they were bigger in the sense that they had definitely had more rows than I recall any of the
Hmm.
other countries. I mean, most of the countries would have 2 or 3 rows where they had a block of just row after row after row of booths of startups. I saw for the France, I mean, they had an environmental one that surprised me. They had a couple of concept ones, which um, was interesting in the sense that most booths I went to, I would say, how as an investment banker, I'm sorry, everyone, how were sales last year? Because that's a big curiosity of me. There was a good number of French companies that were like, oh yeah, no, we're building this out. This is our model. We're pre MVP. We're you know pretty early. There was a couple though that had the brain monitoring helmets that, yeah, we're gonna build this device for your brain waves, all that. Oh really, do you have like how far along are you? Oh yeah, this is something we're working on, and the concept will be out next year. um so there's a couple of those. There was but they had a little bit of everything. They had a little bit of everything. um yeah, they had a little bit of everything, I'd say. Tino.
Cool.
Yeah, I was wondering, so we've got our second patent and others on the way for AR and VR as a custom manufacturing controller. And so one of the stumbling blocks with historical of the state of the art 2 years ago was the AR device would not measure accurately enough for a custom manufacturing scenario.
Mm.
So is there any, did you see, I know that there were 2 years ago when I went to CES, there was a company developing a type of glass that would allow for more accurate measurement out of the cell phone
Mm.
camera, for example. Did you see any companies that were improving the accuracy of the real portion of augmented reality?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't ask that question. When I did get to talk to the AR VR, I was just so excited of wow, that animal that's on the table is staying on the table as I walk around.
Mhm.
Which I'm not sure how experienced people here with AR VR are. In the past, it'd be like, all right, that animal's halfway in the table. Now it's hovering in the air. Now it's glitching. Okay, what's going on here? Where it's wow, it's pretty stable. I'm moving around. I'm moving around at a normal speed, not slow, and it's pretty situated there. Not bad. This is kind of cool. Or these additional um add-ons of, hey, these gloves, when you squeeze it you feel tension, and when you open you feel pressure, and these gloves are making it more or less feel like you're grabbing that thing on the screen, or this energy or pack that's kind of looks like a weight vest, but feeling little vibrations when you're moving. And they had a lot of these extension add-ons for AR/VR. The AR/VR, I thought, from what they were, I remember. I mean, I have my Oculus. Like, this thing's now old-fashioned. Heavy, bulky. Your neck hurts after you play for a half hour. Whereas these are, 300-400 grams. Some of these that attach to your phone that uses that for the battery. They had some cool stuff out there. What they did push a lot was that's like see-through glass for televisions.
Hmm.
They had a couple of groups there that had massive booths advertising and marketing that. And yeah, I would think that technology is this. I'm not an expert. Would be similar to the AR glass technology. Um, at least one I'd hope could play off the other. But that was one area that they were. That I Now that I think about it, I saw a couple of companies massively promote their see-through glass for televisions or many different use cases.
Yeah, that would be good for hybrid work potentially too.
Yeah. Other questions?
So there's still a lot of focus on data and data collection. I suppose because it's consumer focused, they're talking less about cloud infrastructure, cloud storage, things like that, right?
There was a couple of I mean, I would say the bigger companies, didn't mention it as much. In fact, I'd say some of the bigger companies, and maybe it's because their sales teams were more trained on it. I would make the little hint like, "Well, you're collecting a lot of data on it. Whoa, 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 everything is kept private. Don't like, well, we don't use it in any way, stuff like that." And you're like, I don't buy this, but okay, whatever. Whereas the earlier companies is more or less the opposite. We're collecting this data to help with this, help with that. There were companies that were there that were talking about, the inefficiencies of data centers and how they have the gosh, what were some of the taglines I heard? Like the Airbnb for data centers. It's like you need this, you can rent this here. Uh, whereas these data centers, whatever 30-40% is never utilized, where because of our solution you're just renting it when you need it. So there were some earlier stage companies that were marketing their big data center solutions. Their well, other I even saw some, they're like, we're green data centers, like our solution is to help the environment with data centers because of our cooling methods is more efficient, or our designs for data centers are more energy efficient with coolant, so ours is the future for I mean, not my expertise in any way, but interesting conversations with what some of these earlier stage companies were saying, that there is this need in the market, that money is being wasted, that's being thrown away, that by just making little tweaks, that companies can save so much money. And there's even earlier stage companies that the use of data credits and that they're given from AWS and these huge companies, that with their solutions and theirs they could still save a ton versus
Wow.
these, and how I think just kept going. Like there's what they tell you in the market, and then there's the secondary market in the back where all these other people are kind of trading prices, and how they tap into that. And they're I don't know, it's really interesting. I mean, every group. Oh, I did see some Web3. I was gonna say, I didn't see much, blockchain or that, which I did see more in the past. But you just have a conversation with a founder, and they take you down a rabbit hole as deep as possible before you're like, thanks, that was overwhelming.
So I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, there was like an intelligent toilet for health monitoring that was showcased, right? I don't know if you could use it to get your readings. But did you see anything like that that was more kind of home health
There's a
or home?
lot of home health, like the Arple booth. They had one kind of like the OREV ring,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a ring using the same technology as like a remote control,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it was just double click. So whatever it was line of sight, double click, that would either turn on or off whatever was censored. So if you were in your room, you could turn on and off that light, turn on and off that light, start that music, whatever. Just click, 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 line of
Never
sight.
leave your chair.
You don't have to, right? And I mean I'd say the elderly disability tech did have more of a presence. Last year it had some, but that's an area that you know people were talking about, VCs and investors that I had a chance to talk with, just going, we know it's a huge market, but we just haven't found those companies um, that are solving that problem that's scalable, because it's so fragmented as well. I mean, if you want to release this product, maybe that's great for that nursing home, but now you have to go to the next nursing home or the other one or that. There's not this centralized mass distribution, and this is gonna sound awful, but they're also saying, yeah, that product's good for 2 or 3 years, but then the client passes, and you're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting perspective there. Um, but that market is a growing market, it's a huge market, so figuring out how to uh this sounds awful again, how to capitalize on it. But
I
there
I
there
would think that,
was
but the Koreans and the Japanese have a higher percentage of of elderly, right? I would think they would be investing a lot more in robotic and sensor assist and other kinds of.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a big Japanese company presence there other than in the convention center with the huge companies. The earlier stage startups, it was a lot smaller. But Koreans, they had a couple of fall detection devices. They had a couple of well, the Korean, I saw a lot of like beauty startups there, whereas okay, you comb your hair and this dyes it while combing. Um, they had a couple of electric vehicle companies I saw getting a lot of attention. Um, I didn't see that. I'm trying to think. A couple of robotic arms for mixing drinks and that, but there was some home security monitoring robots, but I didn't see many that were I did hear of one, I didn't see it, but to help people after they fell, a robot to help them stand up. Uh I I didn't see that, but that would be I'd be curious how, because I mean I would think the person's body would be so kind of brittle that that's a very very careful thing to do.
Yeah, you might want to make sure nothing's, broken or dislocated.
Yeah.
So
I, I
Ed, you want to chime in for a minute? What was your favorite thing or thing you noticed?
Yeah, so just I definitely want to agree with everything that was said in terms of seeing maybe a little less energy level, definitely not back up to pre-pandemic days. Eureka Park is awesome. The country pavilions were fun. Um, let's see, so few things. So I went to the AR VR area as well. A lot of interesting excitement there. The extrareal glasses are great. Although I did see some commentary from somebody online that like Apple won CES in terms of the AR VR scene without even being there. It's clear that everybody else is playing for second and third place versus like the Vision Pro in terms of the technology that they can bring to bear. Saw a lot of interesting smaller companies with some sensor technology. There was one that I was very impressed by. They actually had a super sensitive magnetic sensor that could pick up the magnetic fields from the electrical currents in your heartbeat, um, as well as filtering out all of the magnetic fields from every piece of electronics in the building. I really had no idea how they were able to do that, but it was an impressive demo, I thought.
And
See,
so that would be like a fetal heartbeat monitor or
or just a regular health monitor sort of thing. They were able to build it into a wristwatch as well, measure your pulse or whatever, just a different sensor technology versus what fitness watches already do. But it's also the sort of thing that, like, once you have this, you can apply it to all sorts of other, really sensitive sensing areas. On the elderly care thing, one twist I noticed there was a decent chunk of it, but a lot of it, they decided to target their marketing at younger caregivers for elderly people rather than trying to sell something to an actual elderly person who is probably not really in the consumer market anymore, doesn't, listen to podcasts or, be advertised to or whatever. Like there was one company that had a really cute idea. It was a regular smart plug, like you get on Amazon to control lights or whatever, but they actually built in a Wi-Fi motion sensor into the plug itself. So you would kind of invisibly install these things in your parents' home to control the lights or whatever as kind of an innocuous thing to have in the house. But it would also be able to tell, oh, well, are they actually moving around the house? Have they fallen? Blah, 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 and notify you, the real buyer, rather than the user per se.
yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of those things break mysteriously because the elderly don't want to live in a zoo. So Sean, what was your favorite thing from the show? If you had to pick kind of your top two or three things, what were the two or three things you were most impressed by or most struck you?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I mean, some of the fitness, I enjoyed that, just seeing what was being built. I think some of the solutions for like the housing, uh solar panels for filtering out gray water, I thought that was interesting. There was I don't know, there's just a lot of cool stuff, to be honest. I wish some of these concept cars actually come about. I I mean the McClellan and the Hyundai and some of the others that I saw is like, wow. And you know, these futuristic motorcycles as well. There's a pinball machine there that was pretty odd. I just really enjoyed it. I just really like enjoy seeing people getting back to conferences again, because there is so I really enjoy them. And there was so long that it seemed that people were hesitant to have any face-to-face conversations, and I was just really excited that it's only 70-80% of what it was pre-pandemic, but the fact that it's still 20% more than last year, at least how I felt. I'm hoping next year it gets back to what it was before, and that's seeing that going in the right direction really excited me more than anything.
Cool.
So in
So
terms
go ahead.
so in terms of percentages, so what do you think was disruptive or versus incremental?
Ooh, ooh. I'm not really sure if I saw anything that I would consider that disrupt. I don't know, Edward. I'd like your thoughts on that. I saw a lot of incremental get things better, but there wasn't anything that just blew me away that I was shaking my head at. Um,
Yeah, I'd
yeah,
kind of put that the same way. And the I think in the pre-pandemic era there was a lot more kind of impactful, kind of flashy things, or at least people aspiring to that. Startups going after really big markets, really big ideas. And now I do think it's a little bit more incremental, just kind of, going through the motions, not quite, but crossing the T's and dotting the I's of established markets, and established kind of ways of doing business. AI has a little bit of a disruptive capability. That was kind of the flavor of the month this year, I would say. Like last year, you'd see a lot of companies saying, "Oh, here's our new UV disinfectant, thing targeting the pandemic technology and stuff like that." And in previous years, you'd see a lot of hype around blockchain or whatever. I think AI probably has that role now of kind of the new technology that a lot of companies are trying to incorporate into their offerings.
I I I guess, Sean, a question for you. I wonder if there's been a pretty substantial cutback in startup funding, and the D round valuations have dropped quite a bit, the A round less so, but it seemed like many fewer A rounds are getting funding. I'm wondering if that there's more of a requirement for proof of demand, which works against kind of disruptive things or people kind of swinging for the fences.
good question. I would say that definitely kind of investor metrics have changed in the sense that they want things de-risked because their LPs or their investors are telling them, yeah, we want things with revenue, we want things with traction, we want things that, and in that sense, having that flashy marketing budget for CES in this booth probably isn't as a higher priority as it was pre-pandemic, where it's now, okay, what's going to convert to an instant sale, what's going to convert to
Right.
revenue today. We have to allocate our money there. So yeah, having startups that are more swing for the fences versus let's use our money today to survive and get traction. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, metrics in that of what are companies that are getting invested in. It's more challenging now than it was 2 years ago. You know, where you
We, uh,
yeah,
we see not just a requirement for product market fit, but actually go to market fit. Do you have proof you can
yeah.
scale? Not just proof of demand, but proof So and I wonder if that drives people out of CES into like smaller regional or niche shows where I'm going to go to I don't know, the home health thing, or some kind of targeted where I'm more likely to order. I mean, CES, nobody expects to leave with orders, right? You're leaving with prestige or visibility.
I'm just wondering if companies have the marketing budget anymore for CES. I
Well, you saw a
remember
lot there, though. I mean, you saw
I
a lot there.
I saw a lot, but those were country marketing budgets. Countries
Uh,
taking these cohorts there.
uh,
And yeah, there's some US companies, but for example, my buddy with the smart wearable watch, he didn't have a booth. He was just having meetings outside of CES. Just that was his plan. So I mean, I'm wondering how many earlier stage companies that 4 years ago would have had a booth looked at it this year and just gone, no, we can't allocate the budget for that. We need to allocate it for, more proven sales and marketing. So that's a good question. I mean, I'd actually like to talk to a couple of founders about that to see, because I mean that makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
one other angle is that CES is such a big event and such a major press cycle that if you are a smaller startup and you want to get some attention, like you're going to be just buried under 1,000 other press releases this past week. So maybe it's better to try to allocate even your timing and your venue of press elsewhere.
Your birthday candle will get drowned out by the floodlights, I guess.
Yeah.
So, any final questions for Mr. Flynn before we break? Well,
I appreciate the time. So
yeah.
So Shawn, amazing interview there. Thank you, Shawn.
Well, you made it very easy. You made it very easy. No, it's I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. It's been very educational, and you bring a unique perspective with your investment background and your technology focus. So I think we'll break here, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks.